Hey guys, Eric Smith here, 5 Reasons Sports contributor, also co host on Scouting the Fins. As we move into the 2025 season, I think we all agree that the workload that Devon Achane carried last season is not sustainable, especially for a player his size. So, moving into the upcoming season, there needs to be a focus, not necessarily on reducing Achane's workload, but reducing some of the high impact snaps and the wear and tear that's associated with that. One part of that is possibly moving to a model where Achane is more relevant in the passing game. The Dolphins drafted Ollie Gordon in the 6th round of this draft, and he figures to have a chance to be part of that solution. But the Dolphins traded a 2025 3rd round pick to pick up a 4th round pick in the 2024 draft and draft Jaylen Wright and get him into the building. Wright was inactive in week 1 versus the Jaguars, and he was active and didn't play in week 16 against the 49ers. He only played 7 special team snaps the entire season, including a 29-yard kick return in week 11 versus the Raiders. So he's got a limited menu in the special teams phase and will need to make a significant impact on the offense to be a long-term solution on this roster. His offensive contributions in 2024 were erratic. After getting 20% or more of the offensive snaps in his first 4 games that he was active, he only eclipsed 20% again once in his rookie season, which was week 10 versus the Rams. He had 6 games where he was active, but played less than 10% of the offensive snaps. With the ball in his hands, he was effective in those first 4 games, averaging 4.79 yards per carry. He followed that up with 2 more games where he was limited in snaps, but he was still exceeding that average. So what happened? There's rumors that Wright struggled with the playbook and substitution packages, which is known to be complex even for running backs, and that's somewhat unique from the McDaniel playbook, which is an offshoot of Kyle Shanahan's system. From weeks 9 through 18, Wright averaged less than 2 yards per carry. Overall, he finished the season with 68 carries for 249 yards, and that comes out to a 3.7 yards per carry average. He only had 3 catches for 8 yards and has yet to score his first NFL touchdown. Now that you kind of have a picture of how Wright's season went overall, I want to start to dig into some of the film to see what Wright did well and areas of possible improvement to look for. This is going to be a multi part series. We're going to break the film reviews up by run concepts, and outside zone is going to be the most prominent concept both for the Dolphins run scheme and for the Jaylen Wright clips. And while I expect the Dolphins to be better at inside zone and duo, I don't necessarily think they're going to look to run it much more in 2025. With that in mind, this is probably going to be the longest video in this series, so let's get into it. All right, so we are going to start out looking at the some of the best runs that Wright had in 2024. Starting here with the Patriots. So on this one, you can see that he's doing a good job of reading the blocks out here. A lot of times you're going to see the running back. Ingold is making more of the read for the running back than the running back is himself. So you can see that even though the initial reads here are looking to go to the outside, you can see Ingold adjusting to that inside lane. And same deal is right there. Nice little jump cut, getting vertical right away. Not a big gain there, right? But those are the kind of runs that you need to stay ahead of the chains. Next one here, still against the Patriots. Going strong side, right? And this one, he just does a really good job of staying on path here, right? So as you know, what they want the running back to do is on the third step. So 1, 2, 3. By now, he should have made the decision where he wants to go, and by his fifth step, right, should be on path for that. So at this point, right, looking at the blocks of Rob Jones and Teron Armstead, obviously looking to bang this up through the wide, the C gap there, and you see Ingold reading it the same way. So Ingold staying to the inside, gonna bounce that defender to the outside. And you can see that Wright just does a good job, right? Not overthinking this one here, just staying on path, maintaining his speed, and getting through that lane before making a cut at the second level. Again, still against the Patriots. More to the weak side here. And again, same idea here that in terms of, he's getting downhill quick, right? One, two, three. That's the decision made. By step five, he's into the hole, right? And just continuing that momentum for a solid gain. Going weak side here. Now, this one felt, a little bit late on the read. You can see that Ingold's reading this a bit earlier, and it takes Wright maybe another step. But the reason I have this under the good clips is that I think he just does a good job of once he makes that decision, right? That foot gets into the ground, gets vertical, and isn't really dancing around, right? He realizes what the read should be, and it's a quick transition to that cutback lane. Same idea here, right? So on this one, right, he's following Ingold, making the cutoff of that block, and I, maybe would have preferred him to continue downhill here, right, off of that Liam Eichenberg block and maybe try to bang it up through there, right? But doesn't lose, too much momentum and is still able to fall forward on that even with the cut that he made. All right, now here you can see that he does a good job pressing this to the outside, right? So as these blocks are developing, you can see that Armstead and Jones, right, they're getting those outside leverage positions. Um, you know, no reason to press this up too soon, but you can see that he's reading Ingold. And as soon as Ingold makes that block, right, left foot in the ground, get vertical, outrun the defense. Exactly what you want to see out of these outside zone runners. Another one here, same idea, just staying on path. Jackson and Eichenberg get that nice outside position, following Ingold, who you can see he's clearly shooting to the inside of that defender. So right now, that that lane is right there, right? Don't overthink it. Just press it, run through an arm tackle, almost score a touchdown. Now we're looking against the Colts. Get a little bit of a flinch there by Wright. Um, but on this one, again, right, even though the read may have taken him more to the outside, right, you see that the position here is more of an outside read, right? He sees this green, gets the foot in the ground, gets upfield, right, and gets a solid gain out of that. If we get, we had Rob Jones here in 2024. Maybe looking at 2025, if we get a piece of this linebacker, right, then maybe we're getting a runner like Wright one-on-one with the safety early in that play. Now we're looking at the Bills, right? And had this one on here again, right? The blocking was not great for Wright on this. As we get off the ball, you can see that Jackson's got inside positions. Eichenberg is working towards outside position, but Jackson's falling off that block. So where the lane, the reads are initially saying this should hit through that B gap, but you can see trouble now. And again, Wright does a good job of planting his foot, getting vertical, just not trying to make too much of this run. Obviously, you're not getting outside with Von Miller there, right? So plant your foot, get upfield, get what you can, and that's how you stay ahead of the chains, even on a play that, certainly had some blocking issues. Another one against the Patriots here, right? So Same idea as earlier here in terms of not cutting it up early. Not getting the best block from Rob Jones here at left guard. But you can see that the space created by Armstead, he's widening that out. Jones is getting just enough. And Wright's doing a good job of pressing that to the outside as far as he can. Foot in the ground, get vertical with it, run through an arm tackle. Couple more here for this segment of it. So on this one, what I really liked out of Wright, it's outside zone to get a little bit of a wham concept here with Julian Hill sealing that tackle. Right, you got Patrick Paul giving you that outside read right now. Right, but you have no reason to stretch that out further. The trust that he shows in Patrick Paul here to be able to, keep this one tight, keep it downhill, right? He's confident that Paul is not going to get driven back and push him off path, right? So nice job here. You're not planting the foot and getting vertical like we saw in some of the other ones, but nice job here of just staying on path because there was no reason to get off path on this one. And then last one for the good reps. So on this one, again, just staying on path. You can see early in this rep, Jackson's getting the outside. If we're reading the blocks, if your leads in Julian Hill and Alec Ingold, they're getting that outside leverage. Stay on path, get to the outside. Squeeze those blocks a little bit and finish strong there at the end of the run. All right, so as you can see, there's plenty of good stuff from Wright's rookie season to take. He didn't always have the best block, and so this next series of plays is just going to be outside zone plays where wasn't a whole lot that Wright could do with these. On this one, so following your fullback, initial reads here, right, look like they're trying to press this through the C gap. You can see that Ingold kind of makes a late adjustment to it. So does Wright, but not a whole lot that Wright can do on that type of play. Here against the Patriots, on this one, you've got on the edge here Tyreek Hill, Julian Hill, essentially not being able to block either of the guys that are part of their combo block. So again, right, not a great situation for Wright there. Against the Bills. So on that one, you've got the combination of Kendall Lamb and Durham Smythe taking on Epinesa. Should be working there up to number 39, Lewis. But you can see that Smythe gets tossed off the block and puts Wright into a bad situation. Against the Bills. This one he's reading it well, getting that cutback. Rob Jones falls off his feet, and number 51 is able to stuff Wright directly in the hole. More against the Bills here. All right, so on that one. So on this one, first thing is that, Aaron Brewer gets pressed back into the backfield a little more than ideal. In a perfect world, this is probably one that's hitting up through that lane, but he's forced to bounce it. In a perfect world, would I have liked to see him maybe try to get vertical there as opposed to get outside with two defenders with outside leverage? Yeah, maybe. But not going to put the fault of that one on Jaylen Wright. This one here, we've got Liam Eichenberg just getting blown up into the backfield by Brown, taking out both Eichenberg and Smythe on the way to tackling Wright for a loss. And then on this one, you got Jared Verse over there just tossing Kendall Lamb aside. The type of play that probably should have been a cutback read, right? And you can see him trying to kind of get into that cutback read, but when Verse is essentially unblocked, not much you're going to do with that. Then going to the Raiders. On this one, you have Kendall Lamb kind of slow to get out of his stance and going more vertical than everybody else. And it just really clogs up everything, right? And then Julian Hill basically misses that block, which is compounded by the Kendall Lamb issue, right? But again, as a running back, you don't expect, um, a guy to get that free of a release. A couple more of these painful clips, right? So on this one here, right, just not getting a whole lot of movement from anybody. So, as you're getting to the line of scrimmage here, based on Brewers' leverage, based on Armstead's leverage, that should hit right up here, in that B gap area. But you can see that it closes up completely, and then there's just too many defenders to cut back. And last one here. And here we get Durham Smythe, right? A play that looks like it's got some nice potential. You get Teron Armstead kicking out. You get Brewer working around to the edge there, right? If Smythe keeps his feet and runs through there, right, you're hitting this for a good gain. But with Smythe falling, then Wright has to cut that back. All right, as you can see, there was definitely some good runs early in this video, and then we had some there that there was nothing that Wright could do. And we're going to wrap this up looking at some reps where, maybe there's an opportunity for Wright to be a little better, a little more consistent. And, these are the type of plays that, as we get into 2025, I'm going to look for Wright to show some improvement. So, first one here, um, on this one, again, kind of tough, especially with Liam Eichenberg basically missing that block. You can see everything kind of gets pressed to the outside. But you can see that Ingold is kind of a step earlier on the cut inside, and that Wright's a little later there. And this is definitely nitpicking compared to some of the other ones that we're going to see. But again, just watching Ingold adjusting now, you can see it doesn't look like Wright sees it the same way. Maybe Wright's looking to get more to the outside, realizes the fullback's going to the inside, and he's 3 or 4 steps later than Ingold in terms of turning that one up. Next one here, going to be against the Colts. So on this one, right, so we're getting outside zone again, right? And on this one, I felt like, kind of late to cut this back, right? Eichenberg's getting driven back into the backfield, but he's still got, okay position. I felt like this was one of those opportunities just to continue to stay on path and bang this through for a 4 or 5 yard gain. And instead, he ends up putting the brakes on completely. And yes, it does work out, but this is the Colts, right? This isn't going to work. When you get into some of the playoff defense, I think we're going to have an example of, him trying to do this against the Bills and not working out. So when we talk about, a guy that should have been fighting for carries in 2024, this is the type of play where you don't want him to do too much. You just want him to continue this on path, pound it forward, and get what you can straight through. All right, this one here. Okay, so this is that almost the same idea here in terms of what Wright is trying to do. Um, sure, Liam could have given more help there. I think that there was a assignment mix up here. Right now as we're looking at it, it's probably, they're probably thinking that Ingold is going number 3 and that the Eichenberg combination's climbing to number 4. As that motion happens, 3 bounces out. So now it should have been Ingold going to 42, Eichenberg to 43. You can see that that doesn't happen. But again, right, we've got some decent position on these initial blocks. And, no, you're not going to, pop this for 70, 80 yards, but pound this through the middle, get your 4 or 5 yards. And instead you see that, Wright's trying to put the brakes on the way that it worked against Indy. But when you get these better defenses, they're going to flow and they're going to make those stops. Another one here against the Bills. And on this one, so one part of this is that I'm not as much of a fan of the toss plays, right? And a big reason for that is we talked about in some of those earlier clips, the idea is that by step 3, you've made your decision on this outside zone, right? So you got 1, 2, and you can see as he's getting that third step is just now where he's getting the eyes around, right? So it's hard to read that and catch the ball at the same time. Had he been able to read that the whole way through, he's probably hitting that lane right there off of Jones' butt in or outside of Brewer. Instead, right, he's late to make this read, right, and because he gets too far outside, he's running into the leverage of that defender, tries to make this late cut, and just really gets stuck. And again, right, that one works out, but you can't sit there and say that that's how you expect this play to go. If we're looking again for a young running back earning carries, right, really need to see him be able to read this early, show that he's going to do the right things in this offense, and cut this up and get vertical with it. Next one here against the Patriots. Right. So on this one, another scenario where he's trying to bounce us to the outside, and you kind of understand why that's happening, right? When you, in a perfect world, right, if we're looking at the way this should have, kind of played out, right, we got decent inside leverage from Julian Hill there. Rob Jones is kind of getting pressed to the outside, but this is where that run really should have gone. And you see that, Wright is starting on path there. So I understand why he did not take that path, because it really closed up. But at the same time, you know, you got defenders that have outside leverage. You have the safety out here unblocked, right? Your chances of getting to the outside here are slim. This is one of those opportunities. And no, he's not a big 240-pound back, but as a 215, 220, right? When that's not there, just put your foot in the ground, get vertical, right? This play is completely gone to crap. Let's just get 2 or 3 yards and play for the next down. And then last one here for Jaylen Wright against the Jets, obviously, right? And on this one again, right, just trying to get to the edge unnecessarily. Um, Armstead clearly has inside position here. Julian Hill's working off to that defender. What's wrong with this lane right here? And instead, Wright tries to press it outside, and it ends pretty poorly for him, right? Again, we have that toss action, which I feel like gets his eyes there late. But even right now, right, this should be foot in the ground, get vertical, and take the lane that's there. All right, so as you can see, there was definitely some good stuff in outside zone for Jaylen Wright, and there were other things that were completely out of his control. And then there were the last set of reps where, maybe things weren't great, but there were more opportunities for him to, not take a loss or a no gain and to, keep on schedule, which is what you need out of a running back in this system. You have the Tyreek Hills, the Jalen Waddles, the Devon Achans that are capable of those home run plays. So when we look at the guy that's going to complement them, it's going to be somebody who is effective at doing the right thing and just staying ahead of the chains. As I said, this is part 1 of this film review. In part 2, we'll take a look at some other run concepts and see if we see some of the same stuff or see if he is better or worse in those concepts. As always, appreciate you guys watching. Feel free to leave a comment below. Let me know what you think of Jaylen Wright in the outside zone, and we'll talk again soon.